And one of my good friend's dads was in the audience and was crying at the end. And I said to my mum, have I upset him?
Upset him? Was it so bad?
I didn't understand. And my mum just turned to me and said, no, you've moved him. I think I was 16 or 17. And I walked into the middle of the pitch. Gabby Logan said to me as I walked on, oh, you know, it's live on TV, by the way. And I was like, cool. Okay, no problem, Gabby. Singing in the middle of Twickenham Stadium or for the Invictus Games in Sydney, Australia, when my mic didn't work.
The first person to sing God Save the King after the Queen had died.
That's correct, yes. We sold over 500,000 albums with our first album.
It's variety.
Today's guest is none other than the singing superstar, Laura Wright. Welcome, Laura.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Thank you. Thank you very much for being a guest at our podcast. I'd like to start, as your singer, with what are your first memories of yourself singing?
So my very first memories of singing actually was alongside my eldest brother, Seamus. I have 3 older brothers, and we used to sing when he used to drive me to school in the car.
Oh, how old would you have been?
I'm trying to work out. So he'd just passed his driving test, or maybe my mum was singing. Generally, the memories for me are always on a car journey. Is when I think that all of us as children used to sing. My mother used to love music. There was always music around the house, but it was especially those journeys that we had on the way to school. We would just fill with music.
Sort of carpool karaoke early doors. So what would you have been singing, do you reckon?
Oh, anything that was on the radio, a real mixture. If I was with my mum's mum, Granny, I would have been listening to Classic FM.
Of course.
If I was with my brother, it would have been Feeder or a new pop band, whatever they might have been at the time, or Radiohead. And if it was my mum, we'd kind of get to choose what that music would be. But a real eclectic mix of music. And I think that's where I also learned how to harmonise. Not that I knew what that was at the time, but I realised that there were notes I could sing.
There weren't the notes that you were listening to, but it sounded really nice.
Yeah, exactly. And
Gosh,
that's what I found enjoyable.
That's interesting, isn't it? Sort of picking up naturally, sort of that harmony. Yeah, so that's sort of a skill. Well, it is a skill.
Yeah, it was how I learned to sing music was by ear, first of all. And so I think my mum kind of realised that I had that love and passion for singing, but also that ability to harmonise and that musical ear before I actually had any kind of formal lessons or training.
So were either of your parents, they weren't musicians themselves?
No, my mum always enjoyed singing, and she now actually plays the ukulele and the bass. But as a youngster, no, she wasn't a musician. It was my mum's dad, who was a jazz musician when he was younger, and his brother who took the classical route and played piano. So my mum's house when she was a kid and a youngster was full of music and double basses and parties and just wonderful sounds that filled the room.
Which sounds great. So when did you sort of show an interest in taking singing more seriously? Not necessarily as a career at this point, but as something that you recognise for doing well, I suppose.
I think it was other people's reaction to me singing. That's what made me realise that it was something that brought people joy. And that's what my mum always taught me. She said, if you can bring people joy with what you're doing, there's worthiness in it.
No, and I think that's true. And I think that's a very good point, because I think for all the entertainers that I've interviewed, I think it's probably the same thing.
Oh, really?
You do bring joy. I don't think it's necessarily just linked to singing. I think not just music even. Any performance brings joy, or at least brings some sort of emotional response, doesn't it? I think.
Well, and especially touching on that emotional response, it was a performance I did where I sang raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens.
A few of my favourite things.
Yes, I was just trying to think. It's just, and I sang that at school, and I must have been maybe 11 or 12. And one of my good friend's dads was in the audience and was crying at the end. And I said to my mum, have I upset
him? Was it so bad?
I didn't understand. And my mum just turned to me and said, no, you've moved him. You know, it's made him feel really emotional because it was beautiful. And so that's when I realised, I thought, oh, wow, okay, the thing that I really love doing just for pure fun and enjoyment has also provoked that emotional response. So that's kind of the penny dropped a little bit then, I think.
I think that's such an important thing though, isn't it? That the way people are literally moved to tears through a song, which might be the beauty of your singing, which I'm sure it was, but also sometimes memories
Absolutely. And that I think there was that combination for him on that day. And it's something, I mean, listen, I'm 35 and I still remember it now when I was 12. So, it provoked an emotional response and a memory in me that stayed with me. And when I need to find those moments when I'm a performer now in high pressure situations, actually it goes back to that foundation again of bringing joy to people through song and through music.
And also, when you were performing that at 12 or when you were performing when you were young, were you nervous?
No.
It was just, you were just there singing.
It was just music.
And maybe that's a trouble as you get older and you become more conscious.
So I literally had this conversation about 2 hours ago with my mum.
Oh, there we go. Tell me what that conversation was.
I said I was really emotional and I said, it's hard, isn't it? Because as a creative, you're constantly looking for what your worth is. And what I mean by that is what you're contributing to. And as you get older and more conscious of what that is, I think you just ask more questions in your mind while you're performing because you become more professional. It becomes second nature. You know how to handle yourself in those environments. But I think you start to then ask those questions of, well, why am I doing this? And what does it give me? And what does it give the audience? And how do I feel about that? And I think when you're younger, there's that beauty of innocence in the performance. That's incredible in itself. And so that's why I have huge respect for the performers we all know and love that have a long career that spans decades, that has the ability to change, because that shows that they're continually changing, developing, and finding something else in their creativity.
So when you're talking about what you're doing it for, I mean, obviously you're talking about more than earning a living from it. You're talking about something deeper than that, aren't you?
Absolutely. And of course, as I've been lucky enough to do lots of different types of performances, as your career path moves along, of course, it does become about earning a living. When you first start out, when I won Chorister of the Year, I was 15 and they gave me £500.
Well, okay, while we're on Chorister of the Year, so this will give me a good segue. Can we have that photograph up? Ah, there we go.
There we go.
So is that roughly that time?
Absolutely.
May I say you haven't changed a jot?
Oh, thank you very much.
I do like the surplus, though.
Yes, so...
Surplus to requirements? I thought I'd get that in quickly. My pun for the episode.
You write that one down.
Write that one down. Tell me about that, then.
The story about the surplus and the cassock.
Yes.
When I auditioned and then got through to the final, I didn't have a surplus or a cassock.
A final of what was this?
Of Chorister of the Year.
Chorister of the Year.
So
fine.
I did auditions. It was a tape. It was a cassette tape then.
I remember those well, yeah.
And I sent that off and I got through to the final and it was 8 of us, 4 boys, 4 girls. And I was asked to obviously bring my cassock and my surplus, of which I did not have. So we took a trip down to the local church and asked,
can I borrow your cassock?
Can I borrow your cassock? So I actually performed. This picture was just after I'd won and I was doing a performance as Young Chorister of the Year. When I actually won in the live recording, I had a black cassock on and it was duct taped up at the bottom because it was too long for me. And I remember being so hot because I'd never really experienced singing in that sort of thing before. Even though I'd sung a lot in church, we didn't wear those.
Cassocks.
Yeah, so it was a really kind of strange experience. But it's a very special memory.
Who suggested you compete? Or was it an idea of yours to?
No, it was my music teacher, Rob Goodrich, who
Was it at school?
Yeah. He saw something and he obviously, I owe a great deal to him and Sue Williams, who was my first singing teacher. And I think the pair of them said, we should put Laura forward to this. There'd been another student at the school who was a couple of years older than me, who now is an opera singer as well,
Wow.
who entered the same competition. So I think they saw that this was a wonderful opportunity, incredibly supportive group of people who still I work with now to this day with Songs of Praise and BBC.
How old were you then?
14. Or 15, I think, when I won, yeah.
And do you remember what was the song you sang?
I sang My Song is Love Unknown as the hymn.
How's that go?
My song is love unknown.
Any excuse to get you singing, you see.
And then I sang Pia Jesu from Forey's Requiem.
Oh, I can do that when I won't. But yes, that's a good tune.
Yeah, but it was quite testing because if you're a little bit nervous, you've really got to trust your breath control. But as I say, at that point, I didn't really understand the sort of severity of the
still
impact.
At this point, it was still almost a bit like the 6-year-old. I presume it was still just doing.
Well, it's like, cool, I'm here to
yeah.
perform and I've got to choose these songs and I love that. And it did feel, I understood, obviously, because it was a competition. There were rehearsals and we were looking at people who were sat next to you who were also singing. It was very obvious at that point what it was, but there wasn't that pressure of, there was nothing to lose, I suppose. It was an experience.
And I suppose that's another good point, isn't it? And I'll draw the corollary with, say, people who are good at sport at school. So you can be good at sport in the first 15 and you love it because it's just all your mates and everyone's having a good time. But that jump from that to becoming a professional sportsman,
and
we'll get on to sport soon because that's something you also have a close relationship with the singing, but that's probably the same with the performer, isn't it?
You're right.
You enjoy the amateurness of it because it's, as you say, you've got nothing to lose.
You've got no pressure and less expectation around you. And I think also, I'm really lucky. I've got really close family. They were all there to support me. I had a great, set of friends. A lot of my friends at school were a couple of years older than me as well, so I think they understood perhaps a little bit more, the potential of what I was doing. But yeah, as I say, I won it. I won £500, which was obviously a lot of money. And then I said to my mum, can I go and get a massive, it was a meringue, one of those oversized meringues, because it was like they were...
I think I would have done the same.
Yeah.
What have I got? Victoria Sponge, probably.
Right.
Why not? Well, everyone must have been, very, very, very proud of you. So what then happened? Did anything happen directly from that?
Yes. So the opportunities that you got from winning the competition meant you had a year as Young Choristers, myself and Sam Adams-Nye was his name, the boy. And you basically got, for example, I sang John Rutter's Requiem in St. Paul's Cathedral.
We have just sung John Rutter's Requiem, literally, which... awesome. Love that piece.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So I got to sing pieces like that, which were just, I love choral music, and in places like that, St. Paul's Cathedral, for live recording. So actually very high pressure situations with an audience, a live audience.
Nervous yet?
Yeah, I found I was nervous, but I don't think the nerves were a thing that instigated any fear at that point.
It's interesting. Because nerves is a thing, and on some level an important thing, I suppose, because
Absolutely.
it means you don't want to be too relaxed. You want to have a bit of an edge, but on the other hand, because singing is, it's a cliche, you are your own instrument, so if you're nervous, it can quite easily show.
Yeah, and I think I work with a lot of young singers now and choirs and children, and they often have that same bubble of nerves, but it can come across as excitement as well. So I think if you can, reshape the way that you view the nerves and the anxiety as a little bit more of excitement and care about what you're doing, I think it's that the nerves are there to show that what you're doing is worthwhile and you want to have a good experience and a good performance. I think it lifts it a little bit when you have those nerves. It's just that as you grow as a performer and you do more challenging music, you've got to be able to control them, which with classical music, I would say is a little bit more demanding.
But it all comes down, but it largely comes down to breath, though, doesn't it?
Because exactly. And what's the thing affected when you're nervous?
Your breath. But that's what I mean. So you get short of breath, and it's like you can't hold your notes, and it all comes a little bit wobbly. And
I think also when one thing happens, it can be suddenly a domino effect, and that's also, I think, a sign of when you're an experienced performer is being able to have a mistake, put that away
and just get on with it
and carry on, because before you know it, the audience have forgotten that as quick as you have. And also, as we mentioned, that the beauty of live music is that it is imperfect.
And that's a good point. And actually, I've mentioned this a number of times on this podcast. For me, you're right. The beauty of any live performance in subconsciously is your knowledge of the audience knowledge that it can go horribly wrong. I always draw the corollary again between a tightrope walker with or without a net. They're doing fundamentally the same thing, but it's a different act if you haven't got the net, because it can go definitely horribly wrong.
The risk.
The jeopardy. So when you see whatever you go and see, if it's live, in the back of your head, it could go wrong. And quite often does go a little bit wrong.
Yeah.
Not tremendously wrong. But
I've had experiences singing in the middle of Twickenham Stadium or for the Invictus Games in Sydney, Australia, where my mic didn't work. So it wasn't a mistake from me personally, but it did impact my performance in a pretty big way. And so there's a lot of those things that you don't have control over, and you have to be able to just reset.
So what did you do in that instance?
Well, on the occasion at Twickenham, I waited for a microphone and the crowd started singing Jerusalem for me, which was just the most beautiful thing.
Beautiful.
Because they took it upon themselves to go, well, we're going to do this.
That's beautiful.
And then when when I got handed a new microphone, which worked, there was this big cheer.
And we started again.
And we carried on. It was fine, yeah. Whereas in Sydney, that was a different scenario because it was my own piece of music with a live orchestra. And
so they couldn't really...
Well, testament to the musicians, kept repeating the same 4-bar phrase until we had the correct thing and could carry on. So it was actually due to the conductor and the musicians being, on point that day.
Have you ever had to stop because of you?
No, I haven't had to do that. I've had to adapt music sometimes, which has normally been because I've felt the emotions have probably got the better of me. And I think that's something that, again, is the beauty of being a performer. I mean, I'm not an actor, and I suppose this probably might be a very different conversation with an actor. But for me, it is me on stage. It's actually me giving that emotion. I'm not pretending, to be a character. Else. Maybe in an opera scene, it would be a little bit different, but it's still because it's your voice and your instrument. You do, I'm sure actors actually maybe would say the same. You do add your own experiences and yourself into it. But I think that's where, if it's a piece of music that does hold, how I sang something at my daughter's nursery the other day and one of the staff members walked out and then she apologised to me later and said, I'm so sorry, that was at my grand's funeral. I just couldn't get through to the end of it. And sometimes that just happens. And again, it's that beauty of that vulnerability.
Yes, I agree.
But I think you have to adapt on the fly if that happens, to just stay in your wheelhouse and protect yourself a little bit.
And that's, again, the skill of being live, is being able to improvise or adapt.
Yeah, and having great musicians around you that can read that as well.
Can we go back a bit then? After that, when do you think you knew that you wanted to earn your living from performance?
I wanted to play sport, if I'm totally honest.
What sport? Any sport?
Any sport. I was trialling out for East of England hockey. I was playing the road to junior Wimbledon in tennis. I just loved it.
So from what I remember at school,
it was one or the other.
It was one or the other.
Yeah, I know.
You had to choose. You could, because the rehearsals and practice times were at the same time.
Yes.
So it was very difficult for children. And there were some who were good at both because you had to choose.
Yeah, I know. And that frustrated me. It was a frustration when I was younger because I didn't understand why I had to sort of go, well, you can go and play the hockey match, but you can't do choir. The two weren't symbiotic, didn't work together. And then really it was it wasn't a decision made for me, but really Chorister of the Year trampolined me into a world where I was performing. And that momentum shifted again when, from Chorister of the Year, Steve Abbott, who is a manager, saw my performances and wanted to put together a group with Universal. So it was really, I think, their sort of concept and seeing and hearing different voices, because he was one of the judges on Chorister of the Year. So,
and what was the group he put together?
All Angels. So it was 4 of us, and we sold over 500,000 albums with our first album with Decca, the Universal, and we did 3 albums together. So we had quite a big record deal.
How old were you then?
15,
God,
16.
Very young. And so what was the repertoire like? Was that classical?
Classical crossover. So it was when classical crossover was sort of invented and created.
Do we like the word crossover?
No, not anymore. But I have to call it that, otherwise people don't know
what it is.
I
still don't quite know with it, other than it's sort of classical, but not.
So, for example, we did a cover of Songbird, Eva Cassidy's Songbird, but with beautiful harmonies and orchestral accompaniment.
So done in a classical way.
Yes, or the opposite of that would be that we did Flower Duet, but it was 4 of us as a quartet with other harmonies and the orchestra. So it wasn't the straight version. Exactly, which is obviously where I think also a lot of had I been a little bit older, and I was lucky I was 15, 16 years old, because I wasn't really aware of the chatter that would be of the, dumbing down classical music. That was very much the chatter around that genre.
Although for me, that's not the case. It's more about opening classical music up to a wider audience,
exactly.
which I think, it's not dumbing down.
Exactly. But I think at the time when that sort of sound was relatively new, I think people weren't quite sure how to sort of manage that, but it was really successful and really popular.
So you were quite young then, 16. Was that full time at that point?
Yeah, so I basically had to do, along with Melanie, Charlotte and Daisy, who were the other members, we had, and it was also at that great time in the music industry where you were, in a hotel for 2 months recording an album over our summer holidays. We'd go on a radio tour around the country. We'd be doing our lessons, in a minibus.
So you'd have a tutor?
We'd have a tutor. We'd have one of the parents, because we had to be chaperoned at that age, who would come with us. We would be traveling around. It was incredible. It was great fun. But it also was a time where, really did isolate and slightly ostracize all of us from our school friends and from school life. And I really missed the sport that I wasn't sometimes getting to do at school. But I obviously had this incredible opportunity. And then from that, I knew that I wanted to, I did my music A level, I did English and art and whatever else I did, and then auditioned for Royal College of Music. So that was kind of the next stage.
And you went to the Royal College of Music?
Yes, I did. I left All Angels after
Did you feel you needed to? Yeah,
absolutely. That for me, All Angels was wonderful, but it never changed my mind in terms of the route I wanted to take. It was very much, I want to go to a conservatoire, I want to study and sort of earn and hone my craft in singing. And I could have probably not done it, but I don't know whether I'd be where I am now if I hadn't.
So you think it was a method of helping you sing in a better way to enable you to have more longevity in your career?
Yeah, and I think it's like suffering for your art. It's not a fluffy environment that you go into there.
But it must have been difficult if you'd already been successful doing what you do, then to almost start from scratch.
Yeah.
Undergraduate, no one knows who you are, and so you have to do whatever you have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. But I quite liked that idea of just going in and knuckling down and learning and just enjoying that experience as well. And I think at times I really didn't enjoy that experience. But when I look back on it and when I'd done it and I came out, and I was really pleased, I was so glad that I did have that experience.
Did you ever consider being just a full-on opera singer?
Yeah, I think I'll always have slight sadness about not taking that path. That's just me being very honest, because I know you.
No. I think this podcast is about honesty, because I think for all performers along the way, there are huge decisions to be made. Not least the big one, should I be a performer at all?
Yeah.
I mean, that's another question. Actually, for you, have you ever considered not being a performer?
Yeah, at times. I think I've never had to, because my love and passion for it has been enough to continue when things have been hard.
Because it is, isn't it? However good you are, however successful you are in the moment, it's never easy.
No, and I think it's the silence in between that I think is now one of the positives of social media, is talked about a lot more. But perhaps when I was younger, wasn't. And that was quite hard. I did have some outcomes from that world and going into a world that was, the music industry at a very young age. And I did struggle. But I think it's those times in between concerts that you'd sit there by yourself in a car in silence and not quite know what was going on or what was next. And I think that never really changes, whether you're busy or not.
No, and the other thing, and again, I suppose it's similar to sport, is the adulation you get in the moment, the applause, the adrenaline rush. And then, as you say, the silence afterwards.
Where do you put all that energy?
Where do you put all that energy?
And often that's by yourself.
And that's obviously why certain musicians in the past have ended up on drugs or whatever it might be, because that space needs to be...
They're searching for something.
And needs to be filled.
Yeah,
you can't...
I think they're searching to fill that space, or they're searching to run away from it as well. Because quite often you don't... I mean, do any of us want to be left alone with our own thoughts for too long? I think,
probably not.
It can be an interesting space. And I think when your performing sort of side of your life, if you like, can be quite intense. When you have the other side of that, and there's that sort of silence and quietness, it can be quite vast, the space that's there. So I often think it's finding release from that is what people search for.
Over the years, you must have had, at times, a bad review.
Oh, yeah, plenty.
So how does that affect you?
Oh, often interestingly, and I don't know whether this is a silver lining or not, but it's often been an opinion on me as a person, not my voice. So I would take that as a compliment, because I don't think I've had a bad review of singing badly. So I think that's something that makes me really proud. I think it's often been searching for something to, now people would call it cancel culture, if you like, but it was more, I would get stick for going to private school, being posh, things like that, kind of having that education that my mum and dad, fought to give me. And that's where
true.
I got frustrated.
But it is an interesting point, though, and I have spoke to other guests about this. It is much harder for people who come from backgrounds where they don't have a lot of money, where they don't have the support. I think because they often have to earn a living. They don't have that space necessarily. And I would have thought most of the people I've talked to so far have come from a background where they've had support.
Do you mean as in like family support?
Financial support.
Financial support.
Financial.
Okay.
So they don't necessarily need to be earning a living immediately.
Right. And this is where I find the irony, because so my husband played professional rugby. And if you are someone who knows about the professional rugby...
They're all, yes.
But it's not a lot of money. And he, as we talked about, he grew up on Wimbledon Common. He really didn't have any kind of step up into the world of rugby. He was just really good and really talented. He had a lot of injuries and he was professional for a short time. But I mean, the money in the kind of leagues that he was playing in, even though he was Premiership for a while, this is 10 years ago. There's not a lot of money in it. And these players come out of professional life. They have skills in the world they were in, but not anywhere else. And you're quite young, relatively speaking, coming out of that world. And you've then got to somehow build up, And I think from my perspective as well, I was incredibly privileged to have the education and upbringing that I had with a beautiful, like I said earlier, big supportive family. But I've still had to earn every penny that I've earned. And the frustration, I think, is that, as we've talked about, the music industry and the sport industry, you can have a great month and then you can have a terrible month. And you never know when that's going to happen. It's like the carpet being ripped from you. For example, pandemic is a perfect thing. Everyone's diary, just if you were creative, just
disappeared.
Yeah, and so did... Yeah, and I think that's where it can be frustrating if you're judged on your sort of background for anyone. It's about what you do with the experiences you've had and what you make of that. And how you move forward with that. I think that's where I try to keep my head at anyway.
Well, no, I think that's true. I suppose for me, one issue is to do with education, though, that the opportunities to have musical education is clearly not as wide as it should be.
No, and it's getting worse. It's disappearing. That's what's so sad. I go and teach my daughter's school once a week. I go and just create a choir there because they don't have any music. It's a very tiny little village primary school. But I just wanted to feel like I could do something that would give them that creative experience. And then when you move forward into, high school or secondary schools, it's just not there. And there isn't space for it. It's really sad.
As though people regard musical arts in general as a sort of a luxury. As opposed to something that's fundamental. And
I think with the way that things are going tech-wise, I think that, or what I hope is that connection we've talked about and you've talked about of that live performance, human-to-human connection, I hope that in time it becomes more and more valuable, because I feel like, and I fear we'll have less of it. So I hope that the arts get lifted to a place.
And that's what happened after the pandemic, wasn't it? Because we'd spent so long suddenly not together that there was that desire, hankering for being together more. So, concert attendances, football match, everything went up because everyone wanted just to be out experiencing stuff. So I think that's the point. Talking about sporting events, you do sing at a lot of sporting events. How did that come about?
I mentioned my love of sport. So when I was at Royal College of Music, they didn't really have much sport there. I tried to start a netball team. I bought loads of netballs. No one turned up. So I had this pump and about 10 netballs that were flat. Yeah. So I went and I basically joined a gym. The guy at the gym, who's called Nick, said, come and play rugby at Roslyn Park if you need to come play sport. So I did. And I wasn't that good at rugby. And I was used to kind of being quite good with a hockey stick or a tennis racket, but I wasn't that great at rugby. But my brothers had played and I loved it. And that's where I met my husband. And he was playing at the same club. And also from that, my first sporting and music opportunity was singing at Portman Road for Bobby Robson's memorial game. So it was a football game. And I didn't really understand the significance of this game at the time because I think I was 16 or 17. And I walked into the middle of the pitch. Gabby Logan said to me as I walked on, oh, you know, it's live on TV, by the way. And I was like, cool. Okay, no problem, Gabby. So then I walked out and I was with his widow, Elsie, and all his old teammates around me in a circle. And I sang My Way. And as I started singing, everyone joined in. And I just had an experience that, you know, especially with football fans who are so focused on the game and being passionate about their own team. This was about one person and his...
That must have been amazing.
Yeah, and his legacy. And it was just such an incredible thing. And from that, I then got the opportunity to sing at one of the rugby games. And I said, look, I play rugby. I love sport. Wouldn't it be fantastic if you had the same person who became synonymous with that moment of Jerusalem and the anthem and just that kind of passionate response from the fans? And can we grow that, having I vow to thee my country? And from that, it just snowballed, really. And I found this niche market of being able to bring together my two loves
of
sport and music.
Isn't it?
Yeah. And then the rest is history, as they say, with lots under the belt of NFL and I don't know, any sport, you name it.
Now, I believe, where was it? You were the first person to sing God Save the King after the Queen had died. Was that correct?
That's correct, yes. Sort of by accident, because I was at a cricket match and I was due to sing God Save the Queen. And then, of course, we all had the news. And then we were sent home, myself and the military band. And they had a huge internal meeting about what was the right thing, what were the next steps and protocol. And then they said, we want you to come and sing and you need to sing God Save the King. Can you do that? And obviously I said, absolutely, I can. And I had my youngest daughter with me, Orla, who was about, I want to say 3-4 months old at the time. So I was slightly distracted, which I think was maybe a good thing in hindsight. And I said to my family on WhatsApp, I was like, no one mentioned the word Queen. I got to get my, muscle memory from years and years of singing.
Yeah, that must be hard. I mean, it sounds like easy in theory, doesn't it?
And it's the kind of thing that you think, oh, that's simple. It's a couple of words that you change. And actually, that's where I think you can get tripped up and caught out. I have heard some people sing Quing around that time because it was just such a
muscle. Yeah, so you're used to singing it. Yes, you sung it for the whole of your life.
Exactly. And actually being at a cricket match, it was almost the perfect place for it because the fans were incredibly respectful. Everyone was just silent and you could almost hear them waiting for that moment to hear King rather than Queen because it felt so alien to everyone. But yeah, it was an amazing moment and I was very proud to be able to step up and sing it.
I'm sure. Can I ask you something which is not exactly music related, more sports related? So you do a lot with women's sport, don't you? Women's cricket team in particular. I mean, obviously a lot of work has been done in the last 10 or so years to make sport more equal. I presume you think there needs more to be done?
I think we're at a really exciting time for women's sport in general. I think that's how I feel. I love that I can sit and watch the women's rugby or women's football with my husband and we both share that same enjoyment and that my daughters will watch that and that there seems to be that equality in terms of what you can find to experience men and women's sport. Yes, of course, there's always going to be more to be done. But I think what's really exciting is it's testament to the talent of the players and their personalities coming through. And I think, again, that has been a massive positive of using social media for good because it's allowed those players to be for us to reach them and feel like we're connected and for them to have voices.
As the men are in that same way, yes.
Exactly. And for those, like Iona Mar, for her to come out and talk about body image and positivity. For some of the people who are on Gladiators now who are just, fitness or they've come from Jodie Ansley, for example, speaking out and just the positivity that they have and the kind of impact they've had on, particularly on young girls and young boys, and that they are the next generation of sporting superstars for us, aren't they? So I think it's that that's had a huge impact. And also, let's face it, the statistics of what they're doing. You know, we're winning trophies left, right, and centre. Which, if you're talking about men's sport and you're talking about Chelsea or you're talking about Arsenal, you know, everyone's always constantly asking the manager about statistics and the reasons. And you look at women's sport and you think, well, all you need to really look at are the statistics, and we're winning. And so I think if that continues to happen, it will keep growing. I think it's a really exciting time. My role in it has always just been to support the women's cricket team. I wrote an anthem for them that was different to Jerusalem, because I said, listen, if you're ploughing your own furrow, that's what my dad used to say, like, make your mark.
Yeah, and also Jerusalem's quite male somehow. I don't know.
Well, it's just so synonymous as well with, you know, that sport that has been male dominated in the past, like others, and now it isn't. I said, well, you need something that gives you your own identity so that you can build on that as well. And so I think I've always just been really excited to help support that in some way. And often that is through music. You can tell I'm passionate about it.
Well, no, but you do sound passionate about it. And I suppose passion is the key, because being a performer is difficult, and you definitely have to be passionate about it to do it. Yeah. Otherwise, you're not going to get through. You get
50% there, right? And then
the hurdle comes, and you say, "Oh, I'll go and get
it." Enough. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question about fame? Actually, are you famous?
I don't think I'm a household name. No.
Would you want to be a household name?
I don't think so. I feel like if you get famous, then I don't know what's next.
You think fame is like that thing in the far distance that it's best not quite to get to, because if you got there, there's nothing left?
Well, I think fame, what does fame even mean? It's different, isn't it, for everyone? I often have this conversation with my mum and say, I'm not saying I don't want to be famous. I'm saying that what I see fame as is integrity in what I do and accolades for what I've done, and that I'm really proud of it. I think that's what, and I think with that, you know, you're never gonna please everyone. And that's sort of the beauty of it, is that people fight. You know, the nicest thing is when someone will come up to me and say, that performance meant a lot to me, and this note that you sang was really lovely, or the way that you spoke to those people was really kind, or you held yourself in such a positive light there when you were working with that children's choir, or I loved that performance you gave, it was really passionate and I felt really involved. Like, those are the kind of things that I take away and last forever. And that for me is, I guess, what fame is. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. But I think you're right. The definition of fame is a hard thing. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because does that just mean you're very successful, or does it mean you earn loads of money, or what does it mean? One of the magicians I interviewed said he was about the only person who said categorically yes, he did want to be famous, because he said that was demonstrated that he was successful. Fame equaled being very successful.
And I suppose being known by as many people. I suppose the reach element now is in some ways easier, in some ways harder, because you have the ability to become a viral sensation overnight, but you also have the ability to fall from grace a lot quicker as well. So I think that's, you know, it swings, doesn't it? Whereas for me, it's about every performance I do being a little bit better than the last one, 1% better every
absolutely.
time.
Part of the point of this podcast, to be honest, was that by definition, the majority of people who earn livings, and indeed very, very, very good livings through performance, are not household names. So your young girl growing up will see Taylor Swift, but Taylor Swift is pretty unattainable.
Yeah.
Whereas there are a lot of people out there who are doing really well, who are much more attainable. You can do this. Mm-hmm. You can earn a living through entertainment. It doesn't need to be Taylor Swift. It can just be doing what you love, like you do, earning a really good living. And I think that needs to be communicated, because I think people just see up there.
Yeah, the sort of 0.001% at the top, and nothing else.
Everyone I've interviewed, they're all brilliant at what they do. They all earn good livings. And it's just, I think it's frustrating that people don't realise what can be done.
Yeah, and I think you're right. How do we change that? I don't know. I think it is hard to prevent people from seeing just that very small percentage of your top people. But things like this are really important to talk about that. And I think that's what's great, even about podcasts, having a long form conversation now where you can. I think that's fantastic in itself. I remember when I was 16 in All Angels, we'd literally have 30 seconds to get out, 3 dates, this statistic and that. And you had no opportunity to really be like, hi, I'm Laura. I really like doing this and I've come this far and this is what I do and this is what I'm like as a person. And I think it's that sort of rounded thing as well that can really put you in a good place in a room with the right people.
No, absolutely.
Keep your career going.
This will show my age. I grew up watching the South Bank show with Melvin Bragg.
Right.
And he used to interview, he used to interview very famous people. I remember one with the Smiths. But it was it was a long form. It was like 45 minutes. And it wasn't really about the performance.
Okay.
It was really about...
So do you feel we've kind of come full
it was
circle
really
there?
it was really about the journey. How did these people end up as... you weren't born. Morrissey wasn't born to be the Smiths. A whole range of things happened for him to end up there. And for me, that's always been interesting. It's you see you up on stage performing amazingly, but that just didn't happen.
Yeah.
There's a whole range of things that have happened in your life for you to end up there.
We've known each other a long time, and the visions that you have to create those performances, like you say, they create a moment, don't they? They create a moment for the audience, but you don't see any of the background and the work towards that.
But that's right. It's you just see that moment, that half an hour, that 10 minutes. Whenever you're performing, you don't understand the work that's gone into it, and that not just for that event itself, but your life.
Yeah. Again, the uniqueness for me about the voice, because you carry everything with you. My singing teacher said to me, when my dad died, she was like, remember that grief can be in your voice for a long time. Because I was like, why isn't my voice working? It's not working. And when I was pregnant, my voice felt incredible. Like my breath control. Yeah, wow. My breath control, my range, everything just felt so good. Both pregnancies. And then when my dad and my grand died, I honestly, I found it like I just lost the ability to sing. I could still sing, and maybe someone who isn't a performer wouldn't notice those things. But for me, it was like, I don't know my voice, what's going on. So I think that's where the voice is so interesting, because you hear, let's say, Dolly Parton, you hear her perform in her younger years. Joni Mitchell, perfect example. You hear her sing Blue when she's older, not old, but older.
Older, yeah.
And the quality in her voice, it's like you can hear all the heartbreak she's had in her life in her voice while she's singing it. And that for me is where I think that's the beauty of the voice and where it lies in terms of those performances.
So somehow your voice accumulates all your memories and all your emotions from the past, and then exists in the voice. So whatever emotions you acquire during your life, your voice changes with them.
Your voice is always, especially with classical music, it doesn't settle for a long time. It's constantly developing. I was singing top C's and D's and E's when I was, a chorister. Now I'm a mezzo-soprano. It's always shifting. Some people the other way.
How high can you sing now?
Not that high. A or a B, probably.
Not bad. How low can you go?
I just got quite a fruity voice now. Yeah, fruity, I think is the right word.
Okay, right. Now, at this point, this is the fun point.
Oh, is it? It's not as none of none.
No, this is the even more fun point. That has all been very fun. This is the apogee of funness at this point.
Okay.
This is where you teach me something.
Yes. Well, I think I need to teach you some sort of singing after what we've been talking about.
Yes, I would agree. So I am pretty much up for anything.
Okay, so I thought that we would do a couple of warm-ups.
Yes.
Because these are just really useful anyway, useful things to have. So the first thing that I normally do to see how my voice is feeling is...
Yes.
Have a go. Go on.
Hold on.
And now try...
Now I have a problem.
Hard.
I have a long-standing challenge. This is true. A long-standing challenge for the whole of my life. Well, since I've been 25. £100 to anyone who can teach me to roll my R's. I cannot. You won't be able.
Try it. Push more air through. Yeah, you've got to push more air through from there. Yeah. And now put some vocal sound. Yeah. Better, yes. Yes, a higher up for you is better. Don't worry, you'll spit. It's normal. Singing, yeah, it's normal. Yeah, nice. Lovely. Your falsetto is lovely.
That could be a countertenor.
It's nice. No, it's nice up there though. It's clarity. It's clear. Now think about the sound going out the back of your head. And come all the way down. Keep going all the way down for me. Go into your, okay, nice. Lovely. All right, so I think I was thinking about this in terms of a phrase we could sing.
Okay, I'm up for a phrase.
And I thought that there's two things we could try. One would be a little bit of Nessun Dorma.
Yes, I can do a bit of Nessun Dorma.
The Vincero.
Let's try that bit.
Yeah?
Not too high.
No, not too high. Let's think about what would be a good starting note for you.
Yeah.
I'm fruity, but I'm not that fruity.
I've got to tell you this story. When I was much younger at school, I was in a barbershop quartet, right?
Oh, nice.
The guy who was at the top part had fallen out with the guy who gave the note at the beginning. So
did he
deliberately put it up like 3 tones.
Oh, no.
And of course, the guy who was singing that knew right from the start that he was going to have to reach a note he couldn't reach.
Oh, that is harsh.
Sorry, I just remember that.
That's very good. Okay, so we'll try Vincero. Nice. Now let's think about what your mouth's doing. Vincero. I want you to go really oval on the ro. Sing ro.
Ro.
And now, hand on your tummy. Ro. Pull in like you're drawing a string in.
Ro.
Nice. Did you feel that a little bit stronger?
I did, yes. More support.
Yeah. And now let's sing the phrase. So, vin. And on vin, you can almost use the n as like a trampoline. Vin. And also, I'm probably not opening my mouth enough. Drop your jaw on the chair. So you're going to go vin, trampoline, drop your jaw on the chair, oval on the raw stomach.
Vincero.
That was pretty good.
Thank you.
Yeah. I could just keep going. I'm like, okay, now do this. Now do this.
I think that'll do. That was great. Okay, my last question.
Yeah.
This is an important one, actually.
I'm sad this is over.
Well, me too. We could do a double.
It's a long form.
Very, very long form.
Very long form.
So this is actually an important question. If you're going to give some advice to a young performer, so someone who says at music college or even before that is thinking about becoming, let's say, a singer or a musician as a career, what advice would you give?
Oh, it's okay. I think that's a very serious question. I think there's a few things I'd say. What comes to mind right now is to always keep the joy. I think that's really important. Is to minimize the noise. And what I mean by that is the external noise of opinion. If you believe that there's something you want to do and you're passionate about it, it does not matter if it is not popular, not cool. Maybe you don't think it's going to earn you any money. I think if you believe in that and you drive towards that goal and you find people who are like-minded along the way who will support you, fantastic, but just don't listen to all the noise around. I think that's where we can, and you've seen it with people who then do really well and then it's almost like, oh, they've got some funny advice going on at the moment. You don't believe it's their true identity and their true self. So I think that's really important. And don't be afraid, easier said than done, but don't be afraid. Every experience you have is worthwhile, especially when you're younger. You might think, oh, this isn't where I want to be, but go and have a conversation with someone and something will come from that. Don't be afraid to sort of always feel like you're the novice in the room.
And what about work ethic?
If you're going to be in the music industry and you want to be, a performer of some kind, you have got to be driven beyond anything. And that means, accepting that you might get a lot of no's, but knowing that the next thing might be a yes. And that takes a lot of confidence and a lot of strength and courage. So I think, you have to know yourself. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's about being driven and passionate. Always has been. Especially now, because it's a very saturated industry. But there's space for creativity, and that's exciting.
And there always is. And I think you're right about being, again, a bit of a cliche, but being authentic to yourself and not just being what you feel people want to see.
I have to remind myself that. Just don't get distracted by all that other stuff. Why did you set out to do this? Who do you want to be when you look back and go, what have I achieved and what have I done? And the most important thing has always been for me is the people I work with along the way will say she was professional. She did what she said she was going to do. She did it with grace. She was kind. I think those are the things that we've realised are really important.
No, I agree.
How you hold yourself in those environments.
If you were very, very, very famous, would you still be as kind?
I hope so. I think having a family makes you...
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that all famous people are unkind, of course.
No, but equally with fame can come serious pressure and difficult situations. I don't think that's an easy path to tread. And also with fame comes a lot of eyes looking at what you're doing. And that can be, I imagine, slightly terrifying and make you freeze in some way. So, but yeah, I think having a family is humbling and the most incredible thing. And I think makes you realise that when your children go out into the world, how they behave themselves as well is a reflection of you, and you're a reflection of them, and that kindness that I want them to have is important.
It's important.
Yeah.
Anyway, that has been a fantastic podcast, Laura. Thank you very, very much for being a guest today.
Thank you.
So thank you, everyone who is watching this episode. If you want to hear more about us or see more about us, do visit our socials on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Until our next episode, thank you very much and goodbye.